I'd
Hold
love
on.
to talk to you.
Good evening. My name is
Yes.
Frank Allen. I'll be your host this evening on Stars International. Thank you very much. And now we can continue. Paul?
I've got to make one more phone call.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul should be.
Yeah,
Paul, you there?
Paul Douglas Hale just left.
No, he'll be on. He'll be back. I just gave him the code because he didn't know what the code was.
Okay, what's your Paul's last name?
Paul Hill?
Oh, he was just here and he just left.
Well, he might have got bumped off.
Maybe.
Because I told him I'm having technical problems, and I know he has too. And I know it's the Bush connection. That's the reason why for him.
Yeah.
I know it without. Let's see, I'm at home. Okay. I'm trying to call my friend who's in real estate, and then I tried to call Scott, the tech guy, to bring him on. I didn't get any answer from him, but I'm reminding him I had to text him and several others. So I sent to Maya, and she sent back to me, stop, in big letters.
Yep.
I'm like, stop? What's that about?
Yeah, she
I
doesn't.
was kind of surprised.
She's kind of fussy about that. So.
Okay, I was just sending her a reminder with everybody else, just letting them know. And then were you able to get a hold of Dr. Matthew Aaron?
Yeah, he's got a text from me. All right, Paul's back.
Okay, so Paul, you got knocked off, huh?
Hey, Paul.
Paul, you there?
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Very good. Happy
noise. No, even if you're not a father of kids, if you're a father of animals or kids you've held, people you've held, you're still a father figure. I know, like you, Paul, you can put on that road. This is really annoying. That's not your fault. I was so busy taking care of everybody else that I kind of left my life on hold for so long. Now I don't hear the echo anymore. Are you there, Paul?
I'm here.
Yeah, so I have to now I hear the echo again. I have a feeling I really have a really strong feeling, just like you, like with me, and many others that I've talked to, including this Air Force officer that I met that's in the area this weekend, working. He was an EMT in the Air Force, and he went in about the same time I did, about a year before I did, and got out about a year before I did. The first active duty, for me anyway, and then he stayed out. But I told him about some of these things, and he said, yeah, Cheney with Halliburton. Not only did I find out about Halliburton contracts overseas, but Halliburton built all these FEMA camps. So they're the ones that are the contractor, and you can look up George Green, former Illuminati member, on YouTube, and he talks many times about his meetings every month with the Illuminati in Colorado, which is probably Schreiber Air Force Base, or the main thing in the Cheyenne Mountains, the big CIA headquarters. They moved from Quantico to make it in Colorado. They still have CIA people there. I'm sure you would know more than I would. But anyway, yeah, I have a feeling it's all because of this Bush administration that we served under. That seemed to be the key, that people were getting taken out and or targeted heavily because they're Gestapo. the Bush family is there's nothing good about them. I've traced their roots back, as in others like the Rockefellers. When I looked up the Army Interrogation Handbook about torture, the no-touch torture policy, and John Rockefeller was on there, and Jay Rockefeller, because John died recently. Jay Rockefeller is taking his place, but there's many others on that manual. I couldn't believe all the different senators' names on the Army manual for CIA torture and Army.
Yeah, Knights Templar were chased out of England by the Freemasons. I didn't know that. And
I didn't know that either.
all of this stuff goes way back. They guarded all the secrets and protected everything. And the Freemasons
all the way back to
got their way up to the top. Yeah,
I don't know what to think. A lot of people say, oh, not all Freemasons are bad. They do some good. Well, my general is a Freemason. He came out and told me, and I said, don't they kill you for doing that? I pretended like, it was no big deal.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, they don't do that anymore.
Can you fix the echo?
I did fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly. I was looking up some really shocking things I found online last night. Ohio, and I can play it for you on my my YouTube. You can look up on YouTube. Ohio, these are the methods now, new methods of alternative methods, not lethal injection anymore, folks. Oh no, Ohio, it's called the head ripper offer. No, it's not just a guillotine. It's a machine that grabs onto your head, and they think it is a more humane method. Really? Humane? Twist your head off. No joke. In Louisiana, if they choose to donate, the inmates on death row choose to donate their organs, they don't just do a surgery and remove the organs. Oh no, when you're alive, they actually put this machine on your face and extract your organs out of your nose and your mouth like they did in ancient Egypt. Only they used a different kind of tool in Egypt when they prepared someone for death, and they went with this tool through the nose. So, and then there's another state, I can't remember which state it was, it's called the Smashinator, that they'll take up to 50 prisoners at once in like a trash compactor. Just literally.
I don't think they'll do that.
Glad you're telling us all this.
They're getting very satanic with everything. So I don't put anything past these things. And I saw the YouTube video, but the one in Ohio, the Death Ripper offer, it actually showed it in the person at the top talking about, just very matter of fact, oh, it's very humane and they don't feel anything and blah, 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 because of these so-called failed attempts with the lethal injection that went wrong, or electric chair, they thought was inhumane. But
what happens is the electrodes aren't on right, or they haven't grounded the person right, and he just sits there and burns alive. So I agree with that. It is inhumane.
But to replace one horrible method from another horrible method, I just don't. I mean, is the person alive when they're extracting this person's organs in Louisiana? I mean, really? It's crazy. But I don't even know how that came up, because I'd been looking at guillotines. I kept hearing about the FEMA camps and guillotines, and them talking about, on TV, you get a red mark or blue mark on your nose. So red means you get killed, and blue means you'll be a slave for life.
Great.
And I looked at some of these trying to find out where these FEMA camps are, who's going to these FEMA camps. Apparently it's a lot of people who are, just like they did in Nazi Germany, who can't work anymore, are disabled, are over the age limit, supposedly, you know. So they're looking at us like cattle, like we're a commodity. But anyway, I don't want to get on the all this, you know, bad stuff. I'm going to get the bad stuff out of the way first and then get to the good stuff. This new device that the police use, so if you're texting and driving, they know way in advance. I think it's called the text. It's like a breathalyzer, but it looks like a tablet. It's a texter thing.
Okay.
So they can know, you know, what the timestamp and everything. So maybe that's why our phones are getting messed with the timestamp. Because, you know, when they send out this emergency alert, so whether there's fire, whether there's abduction, you know, we didn't agree to that. But if they can access that and make that stuff disappear, which I've seen it happen real time, then, you know, who knows what else, why my texts are coming a day late still from various people. Like my real estate guy that I was going to bring on for Scott, since Scott is selling his house. He's,
my text come a day late too, Amy.
You too?
Yeah, I just told Frank. Frank said he responded to me. I texted him earlier. He said he responded to me. I ain't got it yet. I probably get it tomorrow.
This is something else because they're wanting to review things, you know, before they release to see, you know, are you a threat? And maybe it's all algorithms. Maybe it's all been automated. Maybe there's not a person behind the screen. Supposedly, I don't know. But anyway, I was looking at some ways of rewiring our brain. Some things I was looking up about self-hypnosis. And then there's something about rewiring the brain. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, this was a good one. No, not that one.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see Daniel and Matt on this evening, but I haven't.
Oh.
I talked to Melissa for a hot second yesterday.
Yeah. How's she doing?
Yeah, she's doing good. She said she got a place, but she was where she was. She couldn't talk, so she called me back. When she called me back, I couldn't talk, so she left me a message. I got to call her back, but she's doing good. She said she got a place. Got to call her back. Mm-hmm.
There's Melissa at. I'm down here in Georgia. I lost contact with her more than 3 weeks ago.
Do you have her number?
I'm going to have to look for it. I've been occupied with Mother at the hospital for 90 days. The last I heard of her, I had sent her some information on shelters in Georgia, and I've not heard from her in over 3 weeks.
Yeah, she was in the hospital.
Right, I recall that.
And then she got out, and I guess she had to find her a place to go. And now she told me yesterday real quick she got a place. But I got to call her back. She left me a message yesterday, and I haven't called her back yet.
Would you let me know when you hear from Melissa, please? This is
sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll let you know. If Frank give me your number, I can text you her number.
Okay, I'll give you my number in the message, okay? In the side chat.
Okay. Well, not on chat. Not on chat, because I don't do chat. I don't know chat.
Oh, okay. Let me get to you real quick. Is that okay, Frank?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Let me get a pen. Hold on. Let me get a pen. And I'll text you her number. Okay, what is it?
1-678 603 6816.
Okay, and I wanted to tell you I got family down there in Perry, Georgia.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear from people that maybe it's the same person. I'm glad we're talking. I've been waiting to hear from a lady in Perry, Georgia. I haven't heard from her. I sure need to if it's the same lady.
No, it's not. I heard her on our call too. It's not. She's not my family, but I did hear her say she lived in Perry.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you have your family contact me, my mother passed away last Monday after 90 days straight in 3 hospitals, and I'm absolutely alone with only $340 cash and food stamps and no car. We've been targeted heavily for the past 2 years on the ground, boots on the ground, right here by the local crime family, the Clark Family Crime Syndicate, less than 1/2 mile from my house.
I did write to you on Facebook. I gave you my condolences on Facebook. I don't know if you remember, but I did. I'm on your Facebook.
Tell me your first name, please.
Paula, same as yours with an A.
Hey, Paula, I remember. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been listening to you. I'm the one that told you I was gonna be praying for your mother. I don't know if you remember that. When she was
you were
still
friends
alive.
with my mother?
No, I said I was gonna be praying for your mother.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah. That's what.
Thank you. Mother had 4 resuscitations. Five resuscitations over 4 days. Mother's heart couldn't take it. Piedmont Healthcare, Piedmont Henry Hospital specifically, deliberately murdered Mother. I've been claiming that on my Twitter feed now since Friday night. I knew that more than 6 weeks ago. And once Piedmont discharged Mom, 3 minutes later, I called EMS and we got her to a hospital in Macon. And Frank knows the story. It's been pure blazes since then. It's been living hell for us, and now Mom's dead.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I appreciate it. Frank, go ahead. Let me go ahead, y'all. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to ask you, on your mother's page on our site, I did some changes. And I put all the information that you wanted up there. And there's an off-color card, actually, with your numbers on there. And I think your email address is there, too. But I wanted to know whether you wanted to keep all the hospital information on there that you had.
I'm going to send you the updated information.
Okay.
As soon as I can. I have been to make an end of the week summary. I have had more people try to latch onto Mom's insurance funds than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah,
and
you were saying,
Frank, there's a young man who's very misguided, who was very involved in Gannett's homicide. And suddenly he wants out. I don't know what his drill is, and so he has backed out of the scenario, and it's very tough down here. I've got one family that will ride me locally. My ride to the funeral home Friday morning completely fell through. I was fortunate. I couldn't remember until the very last. I had some Uber Lyft credits, but now I'm down to $340 cash. I've got to pay a $63 water bill promptly in the morning. No, excuse me, $68 water bill promptly in the morning. I've got $720 in electricity due promptly, hopefully no later by Wednesday. I've already gone to the local Christian Emergency Relief Fund. They're called CERF, and they've already paid 1 full month for us, and they're not going to do it again for a full year. I've got my phone bill. My home phone DSL is disconnected. I've got to come up with $176. I have no car, no way to get a car. I'm disabled with asthma and CRPS, and I have not. that guy down in Jacksonville we talked about, Frank, he took off. The only thing he could ask about was money. I had another one, a young lady in Milton, Florida. I had to block her as well. She's turning out to be a phony TI. I've not heard from that other woman in Perry, and I don't know what happened to Michelle. Apparently, I don't know. But I'm in a bad way down here, and Frank knows the story. But if anybody can get down here, I've had no contributions. And it's very difficult to get contributions when you set up your own contribution site for yourself. And please go to, there's so few in here, and I'll wrap it up here. Please go to twitter.com/Paul Hale, Hale, and mom. Twitter.com/Paul Hale and mom, and that'll give you the gist why I absolutely positively accuse Piedmont Hospital of deliberate murder of my mother. I have the proof. I was a former emergency medical technician, and I'm accusing WABE in Atlanta, where I work directly across the street on the ambulance in Atlanta's most affluent section, known as Buckhead, of participating in the cover-up. Piedmont Hospital System is rated by Leapfrog. So is Piedmont Hospital. All of those people at WABE and at every state public broadcasting affiliate and National Public Radio are, in fact, CIA and FBI operatives. I'm a direct descendant of Nathan Hale. Frank, thank you very much.
Yeah, well,
Paul.
See, go ahead, Paul.
Paul, everybody don't have Twitter. I don't have Twitter, and I don't know if Frank has it, but a lot of people don't have Twitter to go onto that site. Is it anywhere else?
Go to my Facebook page and look for a Twitter link. Go to Paul Douglas, Facebook.com/Paul Douglas Hale, Hale. Twitter is one of the most useful instant messaging devices in the world. News is transmitted just like that to any hashtag, to any country, to any city, to any neighborhood, anywhere, any subject, anywhere. But you can go to pauldouglaszhale.com. You'll have to look. I tend to run my Twitter feed in on it. But again, Piedmont Hospital System deliberately murdered my mother within 3 minutes of Mom arriving home. I called County EMS. We got Mom to Macon, Georgia. She was within 2 hours diagnosed with the same bacterial pneumonia, the same bloody urinary tract, malnutrition, and a 4-inch stage 4 decubitus ulcer on her coccyx, exposing tendons, ligaments, and muscle. Mother died a horrible death, and I have no contributions. Getting help from the district attorney here will be nil, zero. Jonathan Adams is a member of the Georgia National Guard. He tortured people at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, innocent people. I know that because he prosecuted me for a crime that I did not commit after being threatened with guns by my target here, the Clark family on Giles Ferry Road. My mother worked for his boss, the Adjutant General of the Georgia Army Air Force. Jonathan Adams is a bad operator, and he's right here in a 3-county area. He's listening to this. They're monitoring all this. I need all the help I can get here right now, and thank you.
Okay, but you can get to your site from the Facebook, though. I can get to it from your Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you're going to have to scroll. You'll find the link eventually. I'm reloading some new software on my computer right now, but just go to my Facebook page, which is Paul Douglas Hale, Hale, and you'll find the link to my Twitter feed, and you'll eventually find links to my instant PayPal money pool. He uses PayPal, unlike GoFundMe, gets their money instantly and gets all of it. Nothing is taken out by PayPal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Frank, what you was going to say?
What's that?
What was you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that we have a Twitter account, It's targeted mass at Frank the Archer.
Okay.
So,
I don't have Twitter.
well, you should get it. It's like Paul said. The only thing I don't like about it, the amount of text is very limited. So it's quick comments and pictures, and most of the time the pictures get crushed down to links. So it's very good messaging though.
Okay.
Version 9 of GoToMeeting just came out, and there's actually a messaging section for that. So I think if you're on the phone, I can actually message you from here. But we'll find out. That's what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
Okay, coming from the chat, we have Rex. He says, the cavalry is coming. International tribunals on board with us. This is as of last evening on Derek's call. So that's fantastic. The international tribunals I have been communicating with and sending letters to for literally years. And now I did get back from them the official complaint form, and that's on our site. It's under human rights, I think, under documents. But that's fantastic. So
Frank, I was thinking, you were talking about the International Tribunal just now. I saw the article over the last 24 hours on what you're talking about. I haven't fully read it yet.
Okay.
But there may be a way, a faster way of getting this before some international tribunals. I've got one in mind I'll talk to you about privately online. I've got 4 in mind right now. I don't know if it's going to work out. I won't be able to do anything actively on it except send documents. But I'm certainly willing. I think you've got some of those, and whoever might want them is certainly welcome to them. I just want to get that in.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be something that's could possibly take us out of the country. So I'm not sure if they operate it all from here or from New York. I'm not sure at all, but I will find out. Let me see. Rex, do you have any more info on that? He'll answer here in a couple seconds. So everyone, remember your fathers. Happy Father's Day from myself and Stars International. And I was very happy to have my youngest wake me up this morning with a happy Father's Day. My eldest hasn't done that yet.
Maybe he forgot.
Oh, she's very busy.
No, Frank.
Can't be too busy to.
Go ahead.
Somebody was talking.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, you ought to
turn your volume.
Yeah, can you turn your volume up just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to fix it this time. Shoot.
All right, you're fine now.
Okay, are you sure? I'm
Yep.
just looking for this. That you just said this. Sorry, this PDF you just said. I see. Never mind, I found it. I found it on your website. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay,
How are you
great.
guys doing?
Oh, not bad at all.
Good deal.
Had a rough day, I think, Friday. And I got
Yeah, I've had
really
some.
smashed around on Friday, but
Yeah.
so far today has been not too bad. Just
It's not too good here in Colorado, I gotta say. It's been bad the last couple of days.
I'm beginning to wonder whether it has something to do with the weather and the way frequencies react when it's warm. Because I know on the hottest days, every year, that's when I getting really attacked badly.
Yep. And now I have background noise.
Plus your windows are open. See, there's a lot of stuff we have to learn before we make a final decision. So if it was somebody next door, okay, they would have to, they'd be looking for an open window. So that would be a do. Oh, I watched a video, just to change the subject for a second. What's the guy? Michael Sweeney. I looked at his video, and his video is a direct takeoff from the program on Vimeo, which is a 2005 podcast, actually, done by a gentleman, very knowledgeable gentleman. And this guy just copied it almost verbatim. So that's not something I'd recommend. I don't know who he is affiliated with, but he has a TI community project, and I encourage anybody who would like to get into that. We have to check out the weather to make sure that it's not going to be those tiny little houses in the middle of the snow. So I don't know what the weather is like there. So I have to do a lot of research. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one.
Is Michael Sweeney Dr. Sweeney from in Boston?
No, he had a cowboy hat on. That should clue you in right there. I think you brought attention to him, or someone did. He's got the freewillsociety.com.
Heather mentioned him several times, so I think she would be the one.
Yeah, he doesn't have any information that I'm interested in. It's like he was on.
Oh yeah, that's
he was
living
on
situation. Oh yeah, got them the call.
Yeah, it's like he was on our call listening, and
yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, he listened to that video on Vimeo called The Program. I encourage you to listen to that. Very, very good. It's on our home page at the bottom. If you have Google, it will not start by yourself. I have to put some HTML in there because Google has stopped doing that. So if you have any other browser, it'll light up as soon as you hit the home page. It'll start and you can listen to it that way if you like. If you have Google, just scroll down and hit play. But it is on the first page. Okay, what do you guys want to talk about today?
I want to talk about some things like how to rewire the brain. Some things that I looked at. Let's see if I can find it now. It disappeared on me. Of course it would. Overcoming psychological trauma. I got to get my glasses on and see what I'm looking at here. My eyes have just been ultra sensitive lately. And it's been overcast, so it's my allergies, but it shouldn't be, usually when it's sunny out, my eyes are oversensitive, but they've just been really tired and blurry, maybe because I've been looking at too much YouTube stuff. I'm going to find a thing about rewiring our brain. And I'm curious about self-hypnosis. That's why I was hoping we could get, the people that are into healing, like Sumaya, Vanetta, Feather. Feather just woke up, so. And I guess Sumaya's not interested. But we'll keep going.
I texted Vanetta. Vanetta will probably be on. I
don't have the
I added 2 new videos to the site too. One of them is by Patrick Flanagan. He doesn't even mention it, I guess. It's been edited out, but he invented the neurophone, which is actually the father of V2K, all the way back in the 50s.
What's the neurophone? Can you explain that?
The neurophone, if you connect one line to one toe, this is the way he did it, and you connect another line from the instrument to the other toe, you will receive V2K. And his original intention was to use that for people who could not hear because their eardrums were damaged. So this went directly, obviously, to the cochlea, and they were able to hear music for the first time, this gentleman, for the first time in his life.
Wow. So I can't even imagine that. It must blow someone's mind.
Another fantastic invention that has been used by the government to do bad. They took the government took the patent away from him. He has rights to the analog patent. He does not have any rights at all towards the digital patent. Okay, I'm getting somebody sort of like patched in. I can't hear him.
You probably heard my YouTube. I was looking at How to Rewire and Evolve the Brain to Experience a New Reality by Dr. Joe Dispenza. You want me to read this? It's from 2015.
Sure, that's recent.
I think that's what we need to. I'd like to see us working on how to rewire our trauma, from this and from maybe things we are unaware of, or childhood trauma, or whatever trauma, that gets stored in our brain. It says how to rewire and evolve your brain to experience new reality. Neurons. You want me to play it or just read it? Or how about if I try to play it first, and if you can't hear it, then I'll read it.
Just curious, how many people created the day this morning? You know why you didn't create your day? Because you don't believe it's possible yet. See, if you knew it was true, you would wake up every morning excited to create your day, right? So we have to begin to understand then that we have an understanding of philosophy. The movie was great philosophy. It's what I call dinner conversation. It's got a lot of principles, quantum physics and neuroscience and biology and genetics and receptor site physiology. All that information is really great. But we have to begin to put the rubber to the road. We have to take this information in some way, apply it to our life, right? Otherwise, it's just good philosophy, and nobody's changed from anything. So today I'd like to spend a little time with you and see if we can make some sense out of the world of quantum physics and your mind. Are you guys interested in that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was leaving my office a couple months ago, and my staff member handed me this sheet of paper, and she said, "Listen, you have to read this, quick," and I'm on my way to catch a plane. And so I grabbed this piece of paper, and it's this woman who decides to create her day. And she says, "Well, I never considered myself a special person, and So I'm going to create my day, and I'm going to ask for a sign without a doubt that lets me know that I'm special, and I want it to come in a way that surprises me and that leaves no doubt in my mind that I made contact with the field. So she's driving down the road up this 5-mile incline at sunset. And as she's driving up this road, a bald eagle flies in her car, lands on her dashboard, spreads its wings out, makes eye contact with this woman. She pulls off the side of the road, and the eagle flies out the other window. And I said to my office assistant, you email that woman back and you tell her if she has any doubt now that she's special, we need to talk. Yes? So how come nothing new ever happens in our life? I mean, the quantum law works, and we know that it does. Then how come we keep having the same relationships or the same jobs or the same circumstances in our life? How come it's so routine and predictable that it seems that Newtonian physics is the law? Because we haven't mastered this idea called observation. So this one particular researcher says, well, who do I know that, that knows how to pay attention really well? So he gets on the phone, and he calls the Dalai Lama, and he says, can you send me your 8 best guides? I mean, I want to study these guys, and I want to see what happens in their brain when they're focusing on a single-minded thing like compassion, or divinity, or unconditional love. Now, these guys, by the way, had over 40,000 hours of focused meditation. They spent over 40 years practicing. While you were laying on the beach, they were focusing on single-minded thought. And then they said, let's take a control group, just a group of people that are just average people, and we'll use them.
I'm going to stop it for a second because I wanted to bring up 2 things that you said the other day, Frank, and this applies to you too, Paul. It says the mind and the brain are a unified system. So it took me a while to get me to register that. What does that mean, your brain and your mind? I thought they were one and the same, but as we talked, you said your mind is experiences, memories, emotions. It's more than just your brain. And then it says he's a DC, studied biochemistry at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and has a Bachelor of Science degree, emphasis on neuroscience. And he has a chiropractic degree from the University of Atlanta, Georgia, graduating magna cum laude postgrad. And then he's got a movie reference that says Joe Dispenza at around 40 seconds into the video. It says, what the bleep do we know? Down the rabbit hole. And you can play that. So it talks about focus, concentration, repetition, visualization, mental rehearsing, rewiring the brain. These are skills that we can all harness. I didn't want to just play it, and not have Q&A. So I don't know if you want me to continue or stop. Are you there?
Go ahead.
Is anybody interested? Show of hands, anybody interested in hearing the rest, or?
Yeah, if everybody does not want to hear it, just mute, and we won't play it.
I don't want to put people to sleep here. I just want us all to benefit.
Okay, I guess everybody wants to hear it.
Okay, well.
Monks, and we'll teach him how to do this thing called focused concentration, what science is now called paying attention. By the way, the average human being loses their attention span 6 to 10 times a minute. How good's our observation? That's why only a few subatomic particles actually pay attention to our mind. So he said, okay, we're going to hook these guys up to these brain scans, particular ones called EEGs. And EEGs measure electromagnetic frequency that the brain emits. And so they took 256 electrodes and they covered their whole entire head. And you picture these monks, with the things. And then they ran all the feedback into a computer that created a holographic picture of the brain, and they were able to begin to measure brain activity. You guys with me? Yeah. So they said to these monks, be your normal self. They took 8 of them, be your normal self. And then they said, okay, now you guys, pay attention to compassion. Just close your eyes and pay attention to compassion. The moment they did that, all of a sudden, the frontal lobe lit up so much that the scientists had never seen that type of activity in that part of the brain. Now then they took the control group and they said, all right, you guys, pay attention to one thing. And of course, what happened? My back hurts. How long is this going to take? I don't really want to do this. Am I doing it right? I wonder what my kid's doing. I got to buy dinner, all that stuff. And guess what happened to their frontal lobe? Nothing. Now, in one particular monk, there's a part of the frontal lobe on the left side, which is really the happy spot in the brain. And this guy, the left frontal lobe, was so ignited that the scientists said, this guy's got to be the happiest guy in the world. They've never seen activity like this before. But then the scientists began to think about this, and what they said was, maybe paying attention and concentration and observation is a skill, just like tennis or golf, and you can improve it if you keep practicing it. Now think about this. The brain is the instrument that we use. It's the machinery for us to process thought. How many people accept that? And it also has some automatic processes that allow us to function. But for the most part, it's the greatest area in the body where there's the greatest number of neurons clustered together. And where you have the greatest number of neurons clustered together, you have the greatest intelligence. So the brain is the central clearinghouse of intelligence. Mind, by the way, is what the brain does. Mind is the brain in action. It's the brain at work. When we can measure a working brain, we're studying mind. You guys with me? 6 to 10 times? Hello? You guys with me? So mind is when the brain is in action. So when we're using functional brain scans and we're studying how the brain works, we're studying this concept called mind. You understand? Yeah. Then here's my question. If the brain is the instrument for intelligence or processing thought, and mind is what the brain does, if you can improve the way your brain works, who's doing the improving? And it's that nasty 13-letter word called consciousness. That's the only solution. Consciousness is our self-aware, free-willed individual that is really not the body, is not the brain, and is not the mind. As a matter of fact, consciousness is what manipulates the brain to produce mind. You understand that? The brain processes 400 billion bits of information every second. You know that? I said it in the movie. But we're only aware of about 2,000 of those 400 billion bits of information. And you know what those 2,000 bits of information have to do with? 3 things, and only 3 things. The body, the environment, and time. That's it. Does your back hurt? Do you have a headache? Are you tired? Is it too cold in here? Is it too bright in here? Is it too dark in here? Do you like the way the person smells sitting next to you? Do you even like the person next to you? How long is this guy going to talk before we can break? And that's where all of our self-awareness is on. It's only on the body, the environment, and time. And yet billions of bits of information is being processed by the brain. Now, when we can take consciousness, self-awareness, and move it away from the body, the environment, and time, we no longer have to live by the laws of the body, the environment, and time. And when we're able to do that, we begin to open the door to walk into the quantum field. Now, it's true I've been studying spontaneous remissions of diseases. It's kind of been my interest for the last 7 years. People that have had cancer and diabetes and emphysema and endocrine conditions, thyroid conditions, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels, rare genetic disorders that even medical science didn't have a solution for. And these people all of a sudden became healthy. And they weren't all Roman Catholic, and they all didn't believe in the same God. They weren't all vegetarians. Not all of them used crystals. As a matter of fact, none of them did. They didn't trust the astrology charts. None of that was in common amongst these people. There were 4 things that I found in common amongst every person that had a spontaneous remission. 4 major things and 2 minor things. The first thing that was in common with every person that had a spontaneous remission was that every person accepted and believed that there was an intelligence that lived within them. Did you hear what I said? Within them. That somehow was giving them life. There was some spiritual aspect of themselves that didn't exist. What does religion always say that is? They didn't say that. They said, I'm connected to some mind that's so much greater than my mind. I'm connected to a force that's so much greater than me, a will that has so much more will than I have, and loves me more than I even love myself. And they said, if I could just make contact with this intelligence, it would do the healing for me. That makes sense? So what they said was, I'm riding on the back of a giant, and I just got to learn how to whisper in its ear. Now, I want to demystify this a little bit, okay? Because when we talk about spirituality or spiritual, laws, everybody all of a sudden has no imagery in their brain to be able to process that, right? It's nebulous. But so let's demystify that. Do you know that intelligence gives life to every human being on this planet? It holds order in the universe, and you're connected to it. It's the same intelligence right now that's keeping your heart beating. Your heart pumps over 2 gallons of blood a minute, over 100 gallons of blood an hour. It pumps over 100,000 times a day through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. 3 billion times in one lifetime. No repair, no checks. It does it independent of your moods, your likes, your dislikes, your opinions. It continuously gives you life. Now, are you thinking about doing that? Or is there some order intelligence doing it for you? It's the same intelligence that's digesting your breakfast and breaking down proteins and carbohydrates and fats into simple products so that can be reassembled for regeneration. And we don't even think about that. See, you and I, free-willed individuals, get a free ride. And something loves us enough to continuously give us life. It's the same intelligence, by the way, that's making 10 million cells every second, because, you lose 10 million cells every second. What? You just made another 10 million. Were you thinking about that? Or is something loving you enough to give you life? And that in every single cell in your body, out of the 100 trillion cells, one cell goes through 100,000 chemical reactions a second. Now multiply that by 100 trillion. And if you don't think that we're connected to a greater mind, we need to rethink it. and that there are little enzymes that zip through your DNA. There's 3.2 billion nucleic acids that make up DNA in one cell. As a matter of fact, geniuses, if we took one DNA, the whole strand of DNA out of one cell, and we straightened it out, it would be 6 feet long. You have enough DNA in your body to go from here to the sun and back 150 times. So they said, something has assembled who I am. It's got a greater mind than I do because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And it's got a greater will than I do because I don't think I can keep my heart beating more than a few seconds without thinking about my Visa account. And it loves me enough to put up with me. And they said, I gotta just surrender. I gotta get out of the way enough to let this thing do it for me. I just gotta direct it and then get out of the way. That was the first thing they had in common. The second thing they had in common is that they all said this. My thoughts or my attitude, an attitude is a cluster of thoughts pasted together. My attitude created my condition. I've been a victim for the last 15 years. I could never get over it, and it's worked really well for me to get what I want. Or I've been an angry person and I've hated my parents for the last 15 or 20 years, and I got to stop that. It was actually me and who I was being that created this state of health that I'm in. You with me? Now, do you know that every time you have a thought, you make a chemical? And if you have great thoughts and unlimited thoughts or happy thoughts, you make chemicals that make you feel happy or good. And if you have negative thoughts or bad thoughts or contracted thoughts, you make chemicals that make you feel bad. Does that make sense? So imagine, right? You have an insecure thought. What's the next thing that happens? You feel insecure, right? Now here's the bad news. The moment you start to feel insecure, the next thing you do is you start to think the way you're feeling, which then makes more chemicals so that you can feel the way you're thinking and think the way you're feeling. And we get caught in this loop between thinking and feeling. This is the human drama. And what ultimately happens, listen to this, is that feeling becomes the means of thinking. And what that really means, then, geniuses, is that mind is now immersed in the body. You're not thinking as a mind. You're not thinking as a conscious being. You're thinking as a body, because body is determining the outcome based on a feeling. So we call that a state of being. So the person can't think any other way than the way that they feel. So they wake up in the morning and they feel bad and they start to think bad and they start to feel bad and they spend the whole day perceiving their day based on a feeling. Now, the body should be the servant to the mind. When this happens now, it's the mind that's the servant to the body. Quantum law still applies? Absolutely. Which means then that the person can only live out their genetic destiny. Nothing new will ever happen. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Now, the third thing they had in common is that they all said this. You know what? I have to reinvent myself. I got to become somebody else. I can't be this miserable victim for the rest of my life. I got to become somebody else. Now, the moment they did that, they started to ask themselves some really important questions. Questions that most people don't have the time to think about. Questions like, what would it be like to be a happy person? Who do I know in my life that's happy? What would I have to change about myself to live in joy? Who in history do I admire that was great? And at what point did I lose it and believe this is who I am? And the moment we ask those important questions, guess what part of the brain turns on? Frontal lobe. You know why? Because when we're running automatic programs that determine who we are, we're using the rest of the neocortex. It's all based on association and memory. When we stop those automatic programs, So the moment you ask those important questions, the brain puts the brakes on and has to reassemble a new way of firing to produce an answer to that question.
I could keep going or not, and I don't want to make it all about listening to an audio, but I just wanted to give snippets of what I think might be helpful.
Keep going. That's interesting.
Okay.
Different than the way you've always thought. You understand that? So they put the brakes on to the automatic programs, and they...
You want me to keep going?
Yep.
Anyone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. The next one I have is break addictions to negative thinking.
Said, what would it be like? They started to speculate because the brain, the frontal lobe is the
Uh-oh. Hold on, I got to get it back.
Questions. The brain puts the brakes on and has to reassemble a new way of firing to produce an answer to that question different than the way you've always thought. You understand that? So they put the brakes on to the automatic programs, and they said, what would it be like? They started to speculate because the brain, the frontal lobe is the speculator. It's the part of the brain that likes to examine the what-ifs. And they started to gather information. They started to read at the same time as contemplate about a future. And their brain started to reorganize itself in a new way. You with me? So, do you think that you can change the circuits in your brain by thinking about it? Do you? So I did this experiment a little ways back. They took these people who never played the piano before. You guys with me? And they separated them into 4 categories. And they said, listen, we're going to scan your brains before you learn these exercises, and then we're going to scan your brain after. And all you have to do is show up for 2 hours a day in practice for 2 weeks. Okay? And just follow the instructions. And we're going to hook your brain up to these sophisticated scans, and we're going to see what happens before and after. So they got with these people, and they said, okay, first group, here's the scales and here's the chords. They're one-handed exercises. Practice them over and over again. Keep playing them. So they played every single day, 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. They scanned the brains before, they scanned the brains after. After 2 weeks, guess what happened? A whole new set of circuits lit up in their brain that never lit up before. That makes sense. You learn something new. Learning is making new connections. Repeating it over and over again is sustaining or maintaining those connections, and that's called memory. So they memorized what they were doing by physically practicing or personalizing what they learned. Make sense? Standard, simple. They took the second group of people and they said, listen, we want you to play 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. We're going to scan your brain before and after, but you know what we're going to do? We're not going to tell you how to play anything. You just come and do whatever you want. Play whatever you want. So at the end of 2 weeks, guess what happened to them? Nothing.
You want me to keep going? If anybody wants the actual site, it says How to Rewire and Evolve Your Brain to Experience a New Reality. Dr. Joe, Dispenza. He's out of New Jersey, Rutgers University, Biochemistry, New Brunswick, Bachelor of Science. So I was hoping if Dr. Matthew Aaron comes on, since his background is in neurology, this is where we can make the connect where the disconnect is, to how to change our reality that we're in now, how to overcome the trauma and all the other BS that we've been going through. Let me know if you want me to keep going or not. Frank, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. It's not bad. The content is pretty good. It's just that if you...
I don't want to make the whole call this.
Yeah, you see, I'll explain it afterwards. But yeah, run it for a little while, because we have like until a little after 8, and it's after 6 now. So yeah, play it for a bit, and
Frank.
yeah.
That was Patrick. I was on the line for the last 20 minutes. That was Patrick. He finally called me back. I called him 2 days ago.
Okay.
But I tried to invite him back onto our call. He said he doesn't want to get on. I asked him how he's doing. I was trying to explain to him what you explained to us about that was 6 months ago when you thought you was paranoid and delusional and all that. He just was not trying to hear it. But I just told him, he can come back on the line and to feel comfortable. But he's not hearing it right now. So I just wanted you to know I did talk to him.
Well, he sent me an email, and he wants me to get in touch with him. And he said that he must have been misunderstood or something like that. That's all right. We'll get together with him. He's very heavily targeted. And you have
I know.
to understand that when somebody's heavily targeted, you can sometimes expect almost anything from them. But what you have to look at is
we've all gone through it.
baseline. You have to look at how the individual is 99% of the time. So
that's with everybody.
He's heavily targeted. He's heavily targeted. He's off the hook. I mean, not like he ever was on it,
He is.
He's a good guy.
He is.
I sent him an email reflecting that, too. I said, hey, you're a great guy. I love your the knowledge you bring and your connection with the source material. That's almost verbatim what I sent him. But, he'll come back.
It's okay.
Don't have to worry.
Yeah, he will. I asked him would he be on Neil's tonight. He said he probably will.
Well, I'll try and catch Neil's call then. I probably won't speak. I'll just probably put my desk speaker on and listen. But, Okay, Amy, if you want to play like about 15 minutes of that maybe, and then we'll move on. Because
I'd like to jump over to how to overcome negativity because I don't know about anybody else, but that's a daily, hourly, minute by minute, day by day, week by week battle, overcoming obstacles. Like last night, it was just everything was thrown at me. I just got it from every direction.
Where at, Amy?
Huh?
Where at? Like, where were you when this was happening to you?
I was about to go and pay some bills, and it just went from bad to worse. Just trying to do something simple, like get some food and pay the taxi, arm and a leg, and just
sometimes you just gotta. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta ignore a lot of it. I was telling Frank and Patrick, I'm very heavily gang stock, but some of that negativity stuff, you gotta ignore that because if you don't, it's gonna control you instead of you controlling it. It's just like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You know how you have to control the alcohol.
It comes in waves. It comes in waves. It comes in like three different triggers.
Right, exactly. But because you already know what you're going through.
There's a phone call that I can't ignore, or an issue that I have to address. Things that I can't ignore, like my bills that I keep getting behind on more and more and more, and trying to stay,
We all got to go through it with the bills, but some things you have to let it go. You know what I mean? You can't control everything. You can't control everything. So if you stay positive and uplifted, I'm telling you, the music works. The music works for me. It really works.
And I definitely got to get big case of CD. Here's another one. That same Dr. Joe Dispenza, break the addiction to negative thoughts and emotions and create what we want.
You literally have to become somebody else. So then you would have to agree with me then that all this information that you're learning today inspire new thoughts, yes? And new thoughts should lead to new choices, yes? And new choices should lead to new behaviors. And new behaviors should lead to new experiences. And then new experiences should create new emotions.
Anybody feel free to break in if you want me to, you want to stop and comment.
Yes? So then those emotions that Greg was talking about this morning, the majority of people in the Western world spend the majority of their life living by the hormones of stress. Now, stress is when your body's not out of homeostasis. The stress response is what your body does to return itself back to order. That's the first definition of resilience. Now, you have three types of stress. You have physical stress, like an injury, an accident, a fall. You have chemical stress, like viruses and bacteria, blood sugar levels, and heavy metals and hormones. And then you have emotional stress, right? Traffic jams and internet connections and second mortgages and single parenting and 401k. Each one of those things knocks your brain and body out of balance. And all organisms in nature can tolerate short-term stress. If the deer gets chased by a pack of coyotes, if the deer outruns the coyotes, minutes later it goes back to grazing and the stress is over. Human beings are different. We can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. You can begin to think about some future worst-case scenario. Because the privilege of human beings is that we can make thought more real than anything else. We can focus on that possibility to the exclusion of everything else. And you can knock your body out of physiological balance just by thought alone. And your body, as the unconscious mind, believes it's in that experience in the present moment. And we can unfold past better memories that are tattooed in the recesses of our gray matter, and like magic, we bring them to life. And in that moment, it's real. And so the hormones of stress, long-term, push the genetic buttons that create disease. And no organism can tolerate living in emergency mode for extended periods of time. So then think about this. You can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. How many people have done that? You've done that? It's called being human, right? And we know that the hormones of stress dysregulate and downregulate genes to create disease. So that means then your thoughts can make you sick. So here's my question. If your thoughts can make you sick, can your thoughts make you well? I'm talking to the right audience. So then, the hormones of stress, though, give the body and brain a rush of energy. And it's like a narcotic. It becomes a drug. And people become very addicted to the adrenaline and the stress hormone. And they use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their emotional addiction so they can remember who they think they are. The bad relationship, the bad job, the terrible circumstances, all of that is in place because the person needs that to reaffirm their emotional addiction. Because God forbid they couldn't feel anything. So then if the hormones of stress become like a narcotic, and you can turn on the stress, then we could become addicted to our own thoughts.
Okay, can I just interject this? Amy?
Yeah,
I got a few texts from some people that don't want to listen to it. So we can listen to it another time. I'll tell you what's going to happen to this show. You're going to be able to tune into this show anytime you want, and there will be a video playing. Okay? So if you're up late at night and you want to listen to something like that, just tune in here and there'll be something playing. I'm setting that up now.
Yeah, great. That's great. Yeah, a lot of the things that he's discussing, you've mentioned, Dr. Aaron's mentioned. Everybody has mentioned at some point, about their experiences and how they've overcome them or how they're trying to overcome them. And, it's something that I've never been able to master because I just, your circumstances are your circumstances. But, what he's saying is, no, we're not. We're more than that.
Yeah, psychologically, if you have a day that's stressful and you feel like you're not going to do well, you won't. If you say to yourself, I can't do this today, you won't.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to minimize all of your obstacles.
You have to
and you
will. What works for. Have you ever done this? Look at yourself like you're in the third person, like if you were to step away from yourself and assess yourself as a different person looking at you, what things you admire, what things you don't admire that you want to change. Sometimes I look at it that way because we are spirit. So we are our soul, mind, our soul and our mind, our soul, spirit, mind, whatever we want to call it, are all interwoven and connected by our experiences, our emotions, our affirmations, what we read, what we see, what we hear. So all of that is what this technology is trying to do to defeat all those things, to try to lower our, like you said, the human resonance, trying to bring that to a, not feeling like you have any energy, not feeling like, your situation is going to change. All those things that I play over in my head, that every time I try to jump over another obstacle, trying to overcome and change my situation, you get more. You okay?
Yeah. Is there anybody else that would like to contribute to
please.
Amy's conversation, and we can get some other people involved? If you want to speak, just cut in, like right now.
Like Paula, she's brought up great stuff about, playing good music, just drowning out, your mind with positive things. And, whether it's Christian music, whether it's pleasing music, or a good movie, that we have to overcome what's in front of us, even though what we see looks like the scary, situation. If we kind of change the channel in our head and distract ourselves and our thoughts with something else pleasing.
Okay.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. Like some of the things you were saying, though, I disagree. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, basically, you know what I'm saying, the last part, you know what I mean? Basically, he was trying to say, like he was saying, psychological or whatever and all that. And I think that's a bunch of crap because, you know what I mean, trying to basically say whatever you think or your mind thinking, you'll start actually feeling that way and thinking is like really real or true. So that's basically in denial. That's bull. You know what I mean? A lot of people always saying that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But until they start getting hit with it, then it's a different story.
I'll give you an example. If there was a gentleman that came on the call the other night, and he said, I'm controlled, I'm dead, I'm not going to make it, and so it was a whole bunch of negative stuff. But just to give you an example, that took morale down the whole call. Everybody felt bad for him, which in turn starts to make them think about their negative feelings. So positive attitude can do anything. It can work miracles. I will tell you that right now. That's what I live by. I preach it all the time. If you say that you're going to have a bad day, I promise it, you will have a bad day. Because it's positive thinking.
But yeah, like that one particular part, you know what I'm saying? Like if you like really like pay attention, is that's what we all be getting all the time from like people, you know what I'm saying? Like like doctors, nurses, authority figures or whatever, you know what I mean? That's what they try to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's like basically it's all in your mind and you start to think that, you start really believing that, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's basically, to me personally, I feel that's like, what I mean, people that just trying to be in denial at the same time, though, and don't want to really, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm trying to say? Because that's the kind of feedback we be getting all the time, though.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Towards our situation.
Have you ever you've been sick, right, in the past?
No, not me, never.
When you get sick, I mean, I rarely get sick either, but when I get a cold or I get a flu or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Cold, yeah.
Something minor. I know that, there's forces, there's negative and positive, because we're all in energy. Whether we're near a lot of electronics, where it can really be toxic to your system, and you just don't realize it, because you can't hear it and you can't see it, but your body senses it, just like an animal can sense sound that we can't sense. Well, when you keep telling yourself when you're not feeling good, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to get through this next moment, this next hour, this next, I refuse to be sick, I got too much I have to do. And then when you find a way to self-talk yourself out of being sick, because you have people you have to take care of, you have bills to take care of, you have whatever you have to do, you have school, you have job, you have to go to, and that's the only thing that's really, I put it into a test to see if it works, mind over matter, and it does work. But why I can't manifest that in my own life with day-to-day things is so hard. And that's why, it's a battle every day. It's like one boss told me long ago, and I really was offended when she said this. She's like, you got to fake it till you make it. And I said, well, I'm not a good faker, and I'm definitely not a good liar. How am I going to go out there and do my job? And she's like, I said, what does that mean? I was horrified when she said that. But then when I understood and went beyond the messenger and concentrate on the message, then I started remembering, when I don't feel good, then I have to do stuff that makes me feel good. Have some chicken soup, have some orange juice, watch something funny, get my endorphins going, take a shower, hot shower or bath or whatever, listen to some music. So that's what we're talking about, just basic stuff. It's not that we can psychologically overcome all this crap that they're doing to us, but we can win part of the battle. We may not win 100% all the time, but every day is a battle, and we have to look at our little victories. They can be ever so slight, but they're victories.
Amy. Amy, do you share your brain with morons?
What's that?
Do you share your brain with morons?
What? And is this Barbara? Oh, this must be Barbara.
No, this is Ann. I watched Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is quite a coincidence. I watched hours of him yesterday, on YouTube, trying to, and I believe everything that he said. I do believe it. But when you have, and one of the things, the one that I listened to, 48 minutes, neurons that wire together. So I have a moron in my brain, or a virus, or whatever you want to call this evil piece of shit, that fires words, very negative shit, like it feeds on my fears, and it keeps feeding those fear words into me, So no matter how much I try to be positive, it counteracts it. So it's like going uphill. When you really, you can give that speech to someone who doesn't have this kind of targeting, because I believe it. I'm not saying it's not true. It is definitely true. You can do it. I have gotten over colds. I have had things important to do, and I have wiped out anything before my targeting,
Thank you for that. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. It is like literally running uphill backwards. It is no joke.
Actually, you don't know, because if you got this kind of targeting, you would know.
I do have the targeting, and I'm trying to find ways because I refuse to sit down and play dead.
Well, tell me what kind of targeting you have.
I was in the military for 19 years.
I know your story. I know your story.
I get the BTK. I get them heating up my body at night where I'm having sweats. My feet are on fire. I get the ringing in my ears. I get the drama outside. These alcoholic and drug addicts following me around like puppy dogs, trying to listen to my conversation. I get them breaking my phones. I've gone through 13 phones in 3 years. They just broke my other phone. So when I try to call in, people can't hear me. I can hear them. So that's just a little bit of what they go through. They've ruined my credit. They've done civil forfeiture of my property. I got it back. So they said, I'm going to get my senator on you, and she happens to be in the CIA, and you're going to all go to jail for this. And here's my general. He's a witness here. And they all dropped their jaw. And I said, you are going to, after towing my car illegally off property.
Okay, you made your point. Thank you.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. Basically, I'm not, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't like feeling what he was talking about, because if you really just analyze what he was saying, basically trying to say whatever the hell he was talking about, he's trying to say it's like all the mind thing is in your mind, and that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? All the suffering I'm doing.
No, it is.
I'm doing, you know what I mean, for real. That's my point. That's my
point. No, he didn't
mean
that.
So I agree with the lady right now that just got on, that just started talking right now. That's exactly my point. That's what I was saying. You know what I'm saying?
Your mind are your memories, your experiences. You know, it's more than just, you know, your brain. Your brain is your brain. It's like your arm, your leg, you know, but you have to tell, your mind has to tell your brain to do, how to think, how to react.
I lived with stress 24 hours a day for 10 years. Right? And I function, okay? I function. So I am fighting it. But now what he's talking about, now when someone gets to your neurons before you do, okay? Try to get out of that one. Because no matter how positive you can be, and no matter what they're doing to you around you, but once they're in your head, okay, they're going to beat you to your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Now, I sat there, I thought this guy was wonderful. I really did. I was like, wow, why didn't I discover him before? And just to get out of my own head, I'd listened to him, and it was so hard. It was so hard to listen to this with them in my head. But I did it. And I thought it was one, but it did not help me. It couldn't help me. It could help a non-target or someone who's not targeted like I'm targeted. He would have helped me 10 years ago. He would have been wonderful 10 years ago. But it's, you know, anyone that's not targeted in their brain, good. You should really listen to him. You really should. He is.
I agree with you on that.
Listen to it. I missed it.
I just wanted to say that Anne is very heavily targeted. She has just about been on the street. She takes care of her mom, and she could lose her home. And we need to, I encouraged her personally. I spoke with her for like 40 minutes so that she'd come on and speak and get it out, you know. And
yes, thank you. And I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I go through anxiety every day. I battle extreme anxiety. That I can't even leave the room. Literally, I can't even leave to go out. It's that bad.
You can't leave your house, Amy?
Sometimes I can't because the stress and anxiety is just too much.
Sounds like anxiety.
Yeah, extreme anxiety.
Oh, wow.
It just gets that bad sometimes for like a whole week. Sometimes for weeks on end. It's depression. It's anxiety. And I know energy weapons are involved. That's no joke. Because my animal reacts to it too. So I know it's when she's reacting. It's more than just me.
Yeah, animals can pick up a lot of this stuff. Cats in particular. Cats will weird out all of a sudden.
Winded down back.
And,
yeah. Jamon too.
Okay, would somebody like to speak? Caller 22, your line's open. Oh, left.
You know, the apartment I had before this, my landlord had a cat. And the cat had, like, the best life you could imagine. But yet, it wanted to hide, and it wanted to go underneath the house. Like, I guess it went to the ground. He had every kind of smart, you name it, and Wi-Fi, and everything in his house is smart and Wi-Fi and high-tech. And that cat just wanted to get the hell out of there. I know that. Sure. The cat found a hole underneath the house and would crawl all the way underneath the house to the ground with like a natural instinct.
So yeah, he was trying to ground himself, just like we're supposed to do. And I forget to do that. That's something so simple, to go outside on the grass and take my shoes off and ground myself.
You know, the best thing you can do is take a shower, because you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting any kind of this nanoparticulate that I'm hearing about, where you're getting that off, and you're also grounding yourself. So you're getting the best of both worlds. That's what I recommend, like 2 to 3 showers a day if you can. I mean, that's going to dry your skin out, okay, but that's really beneficial.
Well, actually, if you have an old cast iron tub, like I do at my house, don't use a mat. Don't use a bath mat. Just keep your feet on the cast iron. I was not targeted as bad in my house when I was living in my house before Sandy. So, and I have an old like Spanish stucco, and it has wire in the wall, glass, and like a wire. So that they apply the stucco to. So I feel as if I was protected by this old house somewhat. Maybe they just became more advanced once I left. I don't know. I'm not sure. But the targeting definitely got worse after I left. I have no way to compare it, I can't compare it to anything. Now, in the tub, I remember not even knowing about grounding. I had no idea about grounding, but I was always a bath person. And I always put Epsom salt, always, in my bath, because I had a back injury a long time ago, and that's great for a sore back or sore anything. And I always use Epsom salt. I had even Dead Sea salt. And I would submerge and just put my head under, and I'd feel so good. Little did I know, when they were telling me to take the wax out of my ears, did I know what they were talking about? Take the wax out of the ears. That's what they were telling me. I didn't know they were going to make noise and drill my brain. I didn't know that's why they were telling me to take the wax out of my ears.
Oh, that messes them up. When your ears are clogged up, it messes everything up for them.
Well, I actually find that stopping up my ears, like with either earplugs or headphones, something, unless there's sound coming through it, it's much worse. It's like I'm holding the sound in. I feel as if I'm actually confining the sound in my brain. I don't understand people that say to put earplugs in. I mean, I would go, I would kill myself. There was no way I could put earplugs in. It keeps the sound in. So it's not coming from an external source. It's beamed directly into my brain.
Yeah, I noticed that your neighbors in particular were affected. Like your landlord, where you were staying for a while.
Yep.
And,
he went berserk on me.
Yeah, you didn't really mention that you were affected by the hurricane down there.
Yeah, that's why I'm at. Yeah, that's why I'm out of my house. And they did everything to prevent me to go back. You name it. I was the last for FEMA to give me a refund. To give me insurance money. I had contractors that walked in and walked out. I had an architect that took my money and left. I had flooding, repeated flooding. Okay, repeated flooding. Like after I boxed everything that I could save, I went back to the house only to find the boxes soaking wet and all over the floor and broken. You name it. My pipe froze. It's like this impossible. They've made it impossible for me to go back home.
I mean, it's your real estate,
It's 5 years. 5 years.
You're a hurricane victim.
Yeah.
So I think you definitely take precedent over any others in the area waiting for any kind of assistance. There are assistance programs. There are government grants available for people who are in hurricane-stricken areas.
Well, Frank, I'm going to tell you something. It's up to me. See, I have to do certain things for them to do certain things for me. And I can't. I go to the house, Frank, what they do to me. Frank, the last call you had, I think Friday, I was at the house and I said, when I unmuted, I said I was doing lawn work. They left me alone once it got dark. That's when they gave me a break. What was I going to do in the dark? What was I supposed to do in the dark? You know what I mean? When it was light out, no, they were torturing me. I go there, I get tortured. I can't do it. I can't breathe. I can't look. I can't. It's overwhelming. Is that a time that I should be tortured when I'm overwhelmed as it is without anything external? Now, like I said, there are things that I have to do, and they may comply. I have not been able to do it. I have hit so many dead ends that I'm exhausted. I'm just exhausted. Then I come home to an abusive mother, okay? I run home to cook for her and take care of her, and she's abusive. She's old, and she's angry that she's old, and she takes it out on me. So, it's 24 hours of stress. It's nonstop.
Yeah, it's too much. That's what I thought was bothering you the last time we spoke. You mentioned that your mother was like getting upset and going outside, and when people get really old, it's almost like taking care of a toddler. I don't know if she's...
Yes, that's it. Yes. Yeah, it is. It's like the terrible twos.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Now she's losing her memory. So, which even makes it more frustrating. And she's not hearing. And she's frustrated. She's frustrated because she's still alive. Everybody's dead. She's alive and she's not living. And she's acting like a spoiled brat. Instead of being thankful, she's not.
Yeah, it's to get through an ordeal like that is mind-boggling. It's traumatic. One of the biggest traumas there is moving, okay? But when you get your home torn out from under you and have to move, it's like two different things. You find things you've had for 30 years destroyed. You find books and papers and pictures that you don't have anymore.
Yep.
And it's
trying to save them, trying to dry them out, like, you know, like holding on to whatever you can, you know.
You got to join. I think you will find that there are hurricane groups, possibly maybe even in Facebook, but try and find one in Florida. And you will find resources that are available, that have been made available, that you do not know about. And I know this because a friend of mine and his wife, who lived in Port St. Lucie and then in Fort Pierce, Florida, got in trouble with a hurricane, and they got a loan from somebody, and it was one of those quick pay loans, but then they got, all of a sudden, they just fell into this pile of programs. And they got the roof fixed, they got everything taken care of that they needed. And the house had to be gutted because it had black mold in it.
Mold, right. My house is full of mold now.
Yeah, you don't want to breathe that.
Well, I've been breathing it.
His wife ended up in the hospital with respiratory difficulty because it lodges in your lungs and starts to grow. Oh, big news today. I didn't want to change the subject, but they're finding plastic strands, not particulate, we'll say, but strands of plastic in the Great Lakes. So all your beer that you're drinking is full of plastic. The water that you're drinking from the Great Lakes is full of plastic. And I think I know what it is. I think it's the brand new, not anymore new, I think it's the microfiber clothing, microfiber sofas. And when I say microfiber, they are tiny. And I think you're going to see someday that that's going to be up in the class of asbestos as far as inhalants go, because that stuff is really small. What you have to watch out for are things that get as small as pollen. If it's as small as pollen, it's going to hurt you because it can get in. Okay, I didn't want to interrupt you. Go right ahead, Ann.
No. That's a very good subject. It's this plastic they're finding. It's in our bodies.
Well, they have a program. I was just watching a video today where they have actually a giant net, and I think it's off the coast. As far as the Marianas Trench, they've found plastic. But they have tons and tons and tons, I forget how many tons, of garbage, plastic, that they've actually accumulated off the bottom. And they showed them taking several hundred tons out of the water. And so they're working on it. But unfortunately, what they're probably going to do with it is take it to a recycling plant, and it'll end up out there again. So we'll have to see what they're going to do with it.
That's the whole point. It was probably recycled to begin with, and it ended up there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I was just saying, I live in Florida, too, with the hurricane problems and all that. And I just want to let people know in Florida that purchasing in house insurance or whatever you're going to buy doesn't cover hurricane. And if you don't buy flood insurance, your house would be wiped out with a hurricane. And if you don't have flood insurance, it won't cover it. So it's another policy people in Florida need to know about, that they got to purchase, because a lot of times water damage. And, well, people say, well, I had hurricane insurance. but it's a whole other policy, and you have to purchase flood insurance. So I just thought I'd put that out there for people trying to insure their homes and whatnot, trails and stuff like that. It's a whole other system. You know, it's in the fine print. You can have hurricane insurance stuff like that, but they get around
You're
it
right.
saying, you know,
the insurance, your homeowners, you're right. Your homeowners will cover wind, like hurricane winds, but not flood. Flood is a whole separate issue. You're 100% right. When I got my, well, you know, people don't say, well, how much did you get? How much did you get? But I ran into a neighbor of mine who's also a contractor, and he has a lot of houses around. You know, he goes, Ann, I can't believe it. I got a few inches of water. They offered me 100,000 here, 90,000 there. He goes, yeah, I took it. I'm like, and I had all the damage, and I have to beg. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm like, why? You know what I mean? Like, could anybody have bad luck like this? Is it possible? Is it possible that they came in and just offered him all this money and, like, gave me the bare minimum? And I had flood insurance and made me wait 2 years for it? Anyway, sorry. I'm just talking. This is way
no, I just put
beyond.
out there, yeah, well, you're right, because, you know, the hurricane insurance people will cover that, but, you know, they don't say you have to have flood insurance. And anyway, for people living in Florida, yeah, you got to get, which is really not that much more to add to insurance, and that's, again, another way homes get damaged. So it's, you know, well, the investment of getting flood insurance here in Florida, and of course, you know, in Louisiana and Texas and all that, you know, people should learn about that. These insurance companies don't let you know that. That's a whole different issue dealing with flooding. So they get around it. That's what I'm trying to say sometimes. That's all.
Okay, for those of you who have computers today, unfortunately, there's only 4 of you. I'm sharing Rex's shot of a whale full of plastic, is what it looks like to me. Am I right, Rex? That's what it looks like to me. Terrible. Oh, I haven't seen the likes of that. Yep, it's a whale that got entangled in a net, and its mouth is totally full of plastic. And it has been dead for quite some time by the looks.
Massachusetts just passed a law recently in the last week, Lorraine Thompson, that they are protecting now all the right whales. And
Right.
It's a huge fine if anybody does anything to these whales. So that's a good thing.
That's good.
Lorraine, you should come on with your computer more often.
Well, you know, the problem is I don't like the computer. And I had my old boss come in from Ireland all this week.
Oh, wow.
So I had to work with them, and they were business people, and he finally left. I'm like, goodbye. And I missed Friday night, but he was like, he's very, very kind of into what I'm talking about. And he said to me, I understand what you're doing. I understand about mind control. I understand about this. He owns
all the way over in Ireland, you know.
He owns the biggest security company in Europe. So in other words, he takes care of all of mom and pop, all the way to Iraq and anything else.
Oh my God!
Okay, he's that big.
We need to have you on more to talk about that worldwide stuff.
The thing is, what he said to me, I said, "Do you understand what I'm talking about?" We had lunch. And he said, I understand what you're talking about. I go, do you understand mind control? He goes, absolutely. I go, do you understand? He goes, let me tell you something, Lorraine, very quickly, because I'm in the security of the world, okay? He employs 4,600 people. And he said to me, eventually, these mad scientists that are coming up with all this stuff are going to be killed. He said, only because they've gone too far. They've gone way too far. And eventually, they're just going to be taken out, you know, one by one. And I hope so, you know.
Yeah,
it's not good.
This stuff will shut down, Lorraine. That's my understanding. I think you're going to see the signals drop off into nothing, and stuff will disappear. And reason being, so that nobody has to answer why.
Right.
Because it's coming up too fast.
Very disturbed about a YouTube video, and I don't usually watch these things, but it kind of came up, and there was a girl, I forget her name, but her last name is Rodriguez, and she's calling herself a homo CI, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, you know, going on and on. I watched day 3, you know, and she's walking, and she's like, I live in, you know, San Francisco. Have you ever heard this? And she's living in a car, and she has no money. She goes, I haven't eaten in 3 days. I haven't had water in 1 day. I haven't done this. And, you know, and she's going, there's a cliff over there, and I'm walking towards it. But apparently somebody's videotaping her. And she goes, I'm going to just leave. I'm leaving this earth. I've had enough. And she goes, they started attacking me as a military baby, because my family was military. And, you know, I'm watching this thing for 25 minutes, and I'm saying to myself, this is horrific. I mean, she didn't do it, I don't think, but the fact is, she wanted to do it. And that she wants to just show, in case she does do it, this is the life she was living. We need to set up some kind of funding to help these people that have absolutely nothing. Now, she said she had no water in a day. If I was in that position, I could go into a restroom anywhere and bring an empty bottle and fill up 4 or 5 bottles, you know, so you can get water.
We did that in Florida.
But food, sometimes you can't do food, you know. Okay, what did you say, Frank?
We did that in Florida because I moved down there for a year with a couple of high school friends, and he and his wife were living on the edge of an orange grove, and the water there was not potable. So we had to buy, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 gallons of water a day. And it was like a daily thing to get out and buy water. So yeah, I'm really familiar with that. But I wanted to make you aware of some legislation, or actually not legislation, but have you heard of David Nunes from California?
No.
Okay, he is in the intelligence division, I guess, in California. Rex in the chat made this available to us. Let me see.
Oh, yeah, he's been on TV a lot in all these proceedings with the Russian stuff and other things.
Well, he is well aware of our problems, and he will be in the forefront on this. And we're getting more and more people, and I think the reasoning behind a lot of this is it's twofold. They have family members that are getting subjected to it, number one, or number two, there's just too much of it coming out all at once, and they can't spin it anymore. What do you think, Lorraine?
Well, I think their whole program is showing down there in Texas right now, where them poor kids is being separated from their families and enslaved, and that's no different than MK Ultra, where the kids was targeted and their families were separated under this psycho, whatever you want to call it, program, psychotronic or whatever. So and that people are getting pissed off about that down there, and of course that now those dumb politicians are blaming each other, which, you know, this is gonna call Trump's card right here. You know, if he don't step up and do something about this illegal targeting program and them poor kids getting enslaved down there, which runs on very similar paths. because there's obviously druggists, rapists, and murderers behind this whole damn thing. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it. It's it's evil.
Well, it sure is.
I'm thinking
Frank, are you
August
talking
29th.
about?
Go ahead, Lorraine.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Did you talk? You said David Nunes, or I got a Devin Gerald Nunes, the politician here in California.
Devin Nunes.
Devin. Okay, I see him. Yeah. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, what do you think about this, Lorraine?
Well, I think August 29th, I saw YouTube. I'm not a big YouTube person, but I did watch some of them. Lewis is trying to start something for August 29th, the TI Day, right? Okay, I think what we should do, one thing of action, two things. Everybody should write the U.S. Surgeon General's office, whether they do it email, make it clean, and tell them they're experiencing the sonic attacks or do attacks. You can do one or two of those. Tell them from China to Cuba, you have the exact same symptoms that are going on.
Excuse me, I'll be right back. Carry on.
And I really feel that if we could all put together an email, send it to the U.S. Surgeon General, that would make a huge thing, because what's happening? Only 2 people in China experience this, and they actually put out a warning to the entire country. They actually said, listen, if you're experiencing this, we want you to go to your doctor, get a CAT scan of your brain and everything else, and they also put out a warning to the entire country. Now, we could take advantage of this, and it may or may not happen, but you only got 2 in China going on with this stuff. Now, if we had thousands going on with this, we could demand that they say we want some kind of a public warning to the entire United States.
Yeah,
can't take care of the world right now.
It's a state of emergency. That's what it is.
Absolutely. And it is a state of emergency. We should take advantage of this. And the other thing I also said, on August 29th, take a bottle. I don't care if it's a milk bottle, label it, take a wine bottle, whatever you want, and put a letter in it and throw it in the ocean, throw it in the river, throw it somewhere, okay? It's something that could be unified throughout the entire United States. I can't say everybody in the world is going to do it, but it's something. Cannot sit back and take this crap anymore. It's gone on too long. And I've been in it 8 years, and I'm not going to be in it that much longer. I've decided we have to fight, and we have a good
I don't know. I've been in it almost 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too long. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So
why don't we just kind of focus on the U.S. General Surgeon and focus on, I'll get the email addresses and things like that. And then we can, Lewis is the one who's actually doing the thing with the, and I did talk to him very briefly on this call about sending out some kind of a message in a bottle. And if we were able to get to the U.S. surgeon and get enough people to make complaints about it, then we could actually take it to the media. I mean, for God's sakes, 2 people in China, and it's a worldwide media. I mean, you get like maybe 400 people in the U.S., and absolutely, it is a problem. And the U.S. should put out some kind of a notice, public warning, that people are being attacked. And so it's an opportunity, for us to do this before it's forgotten.
It is an opportunity. Yeah, I did find the article about the sonic weapon attacks in China. It was the Chinese. So it says, with sonic weapon attacks, China demonstrates experimental program. This was May 28, 2018.
Really?
It is May 30th. Yeah, it says an employee at the U.S. Embassy in, I can't pronounce this, GUANGZHOU, China, allegedly suffered mild traumatic brain injury after hearing a vague and abnormal sound, as revealed in May 23rd House alert released by the embassy. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was quick to draw similarities between the incident and 2016 incident that happened in Havana, Cuba, which also happened last year too. So China and Russia and the United States and Canada and other countries do have embassies in Havana. It's not just the United States. So maybe it was China that used those weapons because it's in international waters, therefore it's not on our land, it's not on their land, it's on Caribbean land. Kind of
maybe,
like it seems to be a melting pot for all these countries.
Maybe, but in the past, there's been incidences in China that are very similar to what us victims go through. And in the case of that man with that hatchet going into them schools and starting to kill children, that one time I remember distinctly. But there's also some other instances I can't remember right off. But it's all seems to be part of the program over there too.
It does many things. It does mind control. It does crowd control. It does influence elections. It's like the House Foreign Affairs Committee. The medical indications are very similar and entirely consistent with the medical indications that were taking place to Americans working in Cuba. They said the United States has sent medical teams and is working to figure out what took place both in Havana and now in China as well. The incident elicited all forms of reactions from news outlets, yet the common narrative now floating around is an attempt to write the attack off as being not a sonic attack, but instead a slip-up with electronic monitoring technology, framing the U.S. government response as a hasty conclusion and overreaction.
I don't think so.
It talks about,
Nobody thinks
it goes
so.
into talking about the directed energy weapons. It says prevailing narrative fails to note that, however, in long history, such weapons in the Chinese military arsenal, sonic and ultrasonic weapons fall under the broad category directed energy weapons or DEWs, which also include a range of weapons on the electromagnetic spectrum. These can be used for many purposes, making a targeted person feel ill or even damaging a target's personal, internal, like a gun, missile, bomb technology can be material and infrastructure. Adjunct researcher, professor at Strategic Studies Institute at U.S. in an email in the early and late 1990s concerning non-lethal weapons and their human bioeffects. At least events, due forms of them were discussed primarily within the classified world, he said. And that's another thing I'd like to get on the topic of the counterterrorism no-touch Army field manual, the torture techniques that they use on others and they use on us too.
Amy?
I saw the classification of that. And I think it was Ken who brought it up, and that was just really fascinating, so I saved it.
Hey,
I guess, first of all, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
It's Patrick.
Oh, thank God.
And
Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Hi. I'm really excited to hear people talking about the attacks on the embassy workers, well, the consulate workers in China and the embassy workers in Cuba. And then also there were attacks in Uzbekistan.
Really?
So in total, we have about 40 people that have been impacted by this. And in China, the U.S. State Department did send out a warning to citizens in China, and that was from the State Department. We also have a name that surfaced, a security officer with the Chinese embassy. So that was progress. His name is I think it was Mark Lenzi or something like that. And then 8 other workers were sent from China to the University of Pennsylvania to undergo further testing. So
Patrick, I'm glad you came on the line.
Oh boy, am I glad.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise.
Thanks for
There's a lot of
contacting
background noise, and then someone's coughing a lot.
Okay, I've got the background noise.
Can hear this.
Right there. Patrick, speak.
I'm going to mute for a minute.
Okay. Yeah, Patrick, I think you and Lorraine would get along very well. You were both very well versed in worldly news and things that are going on in the U.S., and you seem to be on the cutting edge, the both of you. So I think that you definitely get along very well. Patrick, if you speak, go right ahead.
Oh yeah, just to address the name Lorraine, it's interesting how, and this most likely is just a matter of coincidence, but it's unfortunate sometimes because what I see is, someone will, a TI will sort of come forward with a particular first name, and then with
wait, Patrick, wait. Whoever's coughing, can you mute? Press *6 and mute, because Patrick's talking. *6 and mute yourself.
Oh.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you, Paula. Oh, yeah, so I was just going to say that it's when some TIs come forward and I familiarize myself with their first name, within a few weeks there will be a couple, 3, 4 people, and all sorts of Melindas and Melissas and Lorraine. So it gets difficult to tease out. Interestingly, there was a man after I had been speaking.
That's because you were a genuine target.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want. I'm trying to keep everything wide open because I very easily can draw wrong conclusions. So I try to lay the facts out. So for instance, a fact is that after I was talking a lot, and I'm from Central North Carolina, a man came forward and he was interviewed on Ella's show. He lives in Virginia, and he supposedly works in Central North Carolina. And I was trying to say, hey, can Patrick from Virginia say, I'm Patrick from Virginia, so that what he was saying in his narrative wasn't conflated with mine, nor would our information be possibly conflated.
I remember that. I remember your request. I remember that. Yes.
And so, yeah, it may have seemed sort of egocentric to ask that he identify himself by saying he was from Virginia, but the reason for that was to make sure that our messages not be confused for the other ones. I didn't get to hear his interview, but it started out with the fact that he had acknowledged serious anger management issues in his teens and ended up in jail for these anger management issues. And then I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is not good. And then someone called me, another TI, whom I think very highly of. So I started talking to her instead of listening to this Patrick person. But I didn't understand why he wouldn't say I'm Patrick from Virginia, because that's where he acknowledged he lived. But so that's just addressing the sort of unfortunate reality that sometimes we become known by our first names, and then it seems that some people come forward, and it very likely is just pure coincidence. But I wanted to point that out because I think people can easily confuse different people. But I agree with Lorraine that was talking earlier that we have, it's a horrible thing that's happening to the embassy and consulate workers, but it is an opportunity for us to highlight what's happening with us. And so I've been following those pretty carefully, and while it's a distinct possibility that this could be some type of newer sonic or acoustic weapon, it's also very possible that it's some other directed energy. And I've been trying to find as many experts as possible in the media, experts who don't have a dog in the race, so to speak, you know, who are not involved in the investigation, or who are not involved in companies like the Mike, I was trying to think of his last name, the guy who started the Audio Spotlight. Could be a wonderful person, so I don't want to impugn his character, but he has this technology which Frank is I think probably a lot more familiar with than I am, and could speak with more accuracy than I could. But so we know there's a technology where sound can be confined. So I tend to put that expert sort of on the side and say, well, I will listen to him saying that that there's no sonic or acoustic weapon that could cause the distinct type of brain damage that's been seen in the imaging. But then what I've done is try to go to academics and researchers who are not involved in the investigation, and who are not involved in some sort of company that is using some sort of acoustic, sonic technology, because it appears that it's more likely some other type of directed energy, but it also could be a newer combination of the two. And I want to make it clear that I am definitely not an expert on directed energy weapons, but I have a little bit of experience with vetting sources and trying to figure out their credibility. And there are a number of credible sources saying that the sort of brain damage, and specifically the damage to the white matter tracts that were revealed in diffusion tensor imaging, which is an MRI technique, that damage could not be done by an acoustic phenomenon. But I guess it would be more careful and conservative to say that it could not be done by a known acoustic phenomenon. And these are researchers who are chairs, for instance, at Columbia University and have experience in radiology and things like that. So their reputation is on the line if when they begin to speak about these attacks, and if they are saying, or if they're sharing information that is not credible, it's going to hurt their reputation. It's going to hurt their jobs. It's going to hurt their careers, because even though it's not like a journal that's under peer reviewed, they're peer reviewed when they go on the record to the New York Times. So it has been more than just a couple in China. 8 people were sent back to the University of Pennsylvania's Center for Brain Injury and Repair. So we have that going on. And I also, when I say that I have a theory, it really means that it's just a theory, and I will try to entertain as many theories that seem, well sometimes when I begin to brainstorm, which I think is a good exercise even for groups, to brainstorm on all the possible theories of who might benefit from the directed energy tax. I've come up with multiple theories, and some of them even contradict each other. And so, I have theories including, is it possible that the workers are trying, that the embassies, the State Department is trying to shake things up in these places, okay? And I have a hard time believing that, because it doesn't pay for the State Department to shake things up and for the State Department workers to be faking and feigning illness. There's another, then people will say Russia, and that very well could be. I have not read any credible sources that have said on the record that have attributed these attacks to China, though. And the other...
It could be a criminal organization. Patrick, what is your background as far as a scientist or anything? Do you have a scientific background?
I have a core curriculum in the sciences, and a bachelor's of science, but from Cornell University. So I have and then what I studied was communication arts, and so it was two broad areas: journalism, public relations, and advertising, but then also psychology, anthropology.
I think we should have CAT scans on our own brains, okay? Forget about these other people, diplomats and the Cuba. I mean, that's just the beginning. Some people in China. If we got enough people together and literally sent out emails that were credible and so that we're experiencing the same situation, they would have to put some kind of an order on the U.S. and say we want a CAT scan on our brains. I know I'm getting ahead all the time.
Yeah, we need to be specific, though. It wouldn't most likely be a CAT scan. What revealed the changes in the white matter tract was diffusion tensor imaging, which is an MRI technique or a type of MRI. Even MRIs often miss just simple concussions. So for people who have medical providers who are accommodating, I would suggest that people, if people are dealing with severe headaches, ear pressure, the tinnitus or tinnitus, that they present those constellation of symptoms to their doctors. Do not mention, well, it depends on your relationship with your doctors. But it would be great.
I think you have to file a complaint firstly, and then have a series of people.
There's many of us that are experiencing voice dystonia and incredible entrainment. And so when we start dealing with reporting this stuff, there are many reports of targeted individuals ending up on a 72-hour hold. So going to a doctor and disclosing this stuff becomes very touchy. And I'm also wondering, Patrick, what if you've run across, I understand these attacks in Cuba and China, what have you, but I wonder how much of it included any type of entrainment, because so much of what is involved with any kind of targeted individual's protocol would be that of entraining the brain, trying to change, I believe, the very way we perceive and think. And this becomes really nefarious. And there's really no beginning point of how to even complain about this, but I think I admire the methodical way that you are trying to plot along to have this even addressed or put on some type of radar, so to speak, of anything, academia, government, or what have you. But there's the whole issue of entraining the brain and getting us to comply with the program so that we no longer complain and think it's an issue.
Yeah.
I think the mind control. I have more evidence to conclude that the mind control technologies are completely separate from the technology that's been directed at the embassy and consulate workers in Cuba, in China, and also in Uzbekistan. So when approaching our medical providers, unless you have a very good relationship with them, I think what you're saying is wise. I would strongly suggest that people stick just to the symptoms and the manifestations, medical manifestations that they're experiencing, whether it's the headaches, the ear pressure, the tinnitus, the ringing, and not go into this is happening to State Department workers in several parts of the world, because it is unfortunately the sort of narrative that may end up with TIs getting a 72-hour hold. I have had excellent care because I went out on disability in 2004 due to a rare genetic condition. There was no psychiatric component at all. And I've had pretty excellent care for the last a little bit over 4.5 years here in North Carolina. But when it's come,
there's many of us who are trying to avoid that. We're trying to avoid that, though.
Yeah, when it's come to trying to get MRI scanning of the brain, there has been a concerted effort on the part of my providers to not order that highly justifiable test.
And expensive.
Well, right. I mean, one of the aspects of managed care is doctors and nurse practitioners, anyone that orders prescriptions, they're not just managed and controlled with regard to the prescriptions they can prescribe, but the tests are.
But you can't do it individually. You cannot do it individually. And you listen to me.
So the SSI, so being an SSI and that type of government care has not been really excellent then. And I think so much of us are trying to avoid getting on that label. It's kind of catch-22. I would never report to a doctor that I was hearing ringing in my ears and all that, because it could so easily stick you somewhere very undesirable in a medical paradigm and elsewhere.
Yes, I think
you have a lot of noise coming in.
Yeah, there's an echo, and then.
Is everybody familiar with the General Dynamics contract from the Air Force on bioeffects of non-lethal weapons?
Yeah.
Yeah, huh?
I'm not familiar with that contract, but before we get into the micro contracts, is everyone familiar with the Directed Energy Professional Society, which is comprised of the biggest defense contractors in directed energy technology and weapons?
Of course we are, but this is actually telling you who's doing it to us. They have a contract, and it's unclassified at this point. It's to develop and understand the bioeffects associated with exposing humans to counterpersonal non-lethal weapons. It's essential for legal, treat, policy, and material development purposes. Without it, escalation of force options cannot be provided to warfighters. The objective of this effort is to provide human effects data and information that is necessary to characterize devices and technologies intended for this purpose. In order to accomplish these objectives, it is essential to conduct laboratory and field experiments necessary to understand the variety of human effect responses of these technologies. These include direct energy, riot control agent, broadband light, acoustic sound, and blunt impact materials. Another objective is to apply the scientific information about engineering optimal effects-based design parameters for non-lethal weapons. And this is pretty much on, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but number one, toxology, including RCAs, riot control agents, industrial byproducts, combustible material, and their byproducts. Number two, blunt trauma, including dermal penetration, perforation, and non-penetrating insult to soft tissue, organs, and skeleton. What's going on right now? Acoustic, auditory, ocular, visual, dermal, hepatic, including sensory degradation and physiological damage, effects on attention and intent, and complete behavior such as decision-making and communication. I think this has more to do with what's going on with the diplomats. Bioelectrics, including model current flow through the body, bioeffects on organs, central nervous system, vascular, neuromuscular, and endocrine function. 5, interaction.
There is a huge body of literature on the bioeffects of directed energy, and that began in 1953.
Exactly. But this is a contract that was awarded January 23rd, 2013 for 7 years, which means it's still happening, which means we know where it's coming from. General Dynamics, okay?
Well, I want to encourage people to keep it wide open, and I would encourage people to look at the 2018. I can't put this stuff in your chat, Frank. I know it's not you, but when I do download your program, my computer goes absolutely haywire, and it so I can't put this stuff in the chat. But Directed Energy Professional Society has a great brochure, and the word brochure doesn't sound too scientific, but it's 2018 Directed Energy Educational Outreach, and it outlines all of the major directed energy defense contractors and the specific weapons that they have been developing over the last nearly 70 years. And though a fair number of, or a significant percentage of TIs are aware of directed energy, I still continue to hear many TIs say, there are people in my life that are saying these things don't even exist. And I'm not hearing enough response back from people in the community saying, well, we know from scientific literature, from medical literature, and we also know from former ambassadors that the U.S. Moscow embassy was being hit in 1953 with microwave bombardment, and that was outlined in a study by Johns Hopkins, by Environmental Health, and then also according to a website for the Association for Diplomatic Training and Study. And the ambassador who clarified the 1953 date was Ambassador James Schumacher. And the reason 53 is important is we can, as TIs, should, and I want people to find this on their own. And so the article is called Microwaving Embassy Moscow, Another Perspective, and that's from the Association for Diplomatic Studies and Training, and then also in Environmental Health Study. And people have said to me, it doesn't matter how far it goes back, it's irrelevant. And actually, it does matter. It matters in the case that we are able to make that directed energy is not something theoretical for the future. Directed energy has been employed.
I just wanted
What
to
don't you understand?
I just wanted to interject something. If you would like a link to the professional society and you can't find it, go to targetedmassachusetts.org. There is a link to the society right on the front page.
Great. And have you seen the...
I was trying to get that in. Guys, go to Frank's website, go to Targeted Massachusetts. There is a wealth of information there. There is so much good stuff, okay? You have to start reading this site. I mean, it's, we could talk and find who has. Go ahead.
Frank, I had asked you if you could put the article from the Association for Diplomatic Studies and Training somewhere really visible. I know you can only accomplish so much in 24 hours. But then also the Environmental Journal, because
did you send that to me? Did you send that to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I did. It may not have gotten to you, but I do need to be direct and say that I do believe there has been obfuscation when it comes to the beginning dates of directed energy, and some of what I'm hearing, I believe, is deliberate. Some of it may be inadvertent. But I would love for the TI community to be able to embrace the facts that the U.S. Moscow Embassy was hit in 1953, because it's a powerful fact, and it's one that we can use when we're dealing with our politicians or congressmen and our senators or even local. And that's information nowadays with the internet that we can link to and send to our mayors, senators, House of Representatives.
You have the FedBuzz. Frank, did you just get, I just sent you the FedBuzzOps.gov. Did you get it? SBO?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you post that, please?
Yes,
Why should we get an old piece of paper when we have this that's current? It's right now. Right now. It's happening right now. Why contract?
No, we do both.
I don't read without this piece of paper in my hand, okay? This is going to tell the whole world that I am not crazy, all right? U.S. Air Force, the largest developers and users of radio frequencies and high-powered microwave emitting devices in the world. They're doing research right now. Yes, it's been done before. Yes. We can go all the way back. You're right.
It's not research that's important. It's the fact that the weapons have been employed for nearly 70 years. And I was also talking about the best information in one source.
Well, I'm sorry, Patrick.
Excuse me.
Happen to think this is the best information in one source.
No,
you read it before you make that comment.
Excuse me, you're not letting me speak. The 2018 Directed Energy Educational Outreach paper, which is nearly 80 pages long, and it goes into great specificity as to the companies and what exactly they are working on. And then there's a body of literature going back nearly 70 years on the bioeffects. So I'm not sure where you're taking exception with me. I'm simply saying that in addition to emphasizing, first of all, that this is happening now, also to emphasize that the directed energy weapons were being employed in 1953, because the ongoing response, even in this community, from people who do not have the facts or from people trying to obfuscate the facts, is that these weapons are, you just used the word research, or they are theoretical, when they have been around for 65 years. They are not the future of warfare and weaponry. They are happening right now and have
You're
been
right,
happening.
Patrick. But this is, I'm reading from a government document, fedbizops.gov. It's FBO, federalbusinessopportunity.gov. I was reading from there. I wasn't making up. It was from the Air Force. They said
say we're making it up, but it's not just the Air Force. It's definitely not just the Air Force.
Why don't we look at who developed it? It was Raytheon. Okay, you can go onto the internet and the direct energy weapons were definitely developed by the Raytheon company.
They put out contracts every day.
You're talking about dozens and dozens of different weapons, and so you're saying it, and that's extremely vague. Now, the directed energy,
it's multiplied.
What did Raytheon develop?
Right. But
no, I'm asking
Raytheon
you, what are you saying Raytheon developed?
Absolutely, direct energy weapons.
No, but what directed energy weapon did Raytheon develop?
I don't know exactly what it is.
Okay,
and I don't
so then let's go with the source that outlines exactly all the companies, well, maybe not all, but most of the biggest ones, and exactly what they have. And that's the Directed Energy Outreach Report, 2018 Directed Energy Educational Outreach, because when we begin to zero in on just a very minuscule, myopic fraction of what's happening, then we can lose the whole picture. I'm not saying that what you're sharing isn't important, but I'm not understanding what you're saying Raytheon developed, specifically which directed energy weapon.
They were the beginning of the directed energy weapons. If you went on it, it was like a huge truck, the huge screen. That was the beginning of it. Now it's like, it's so refined. And I'm sure many other companies, like you say, have taken it over and even refined it even more. Whether you'll get that information or not. But they did, at least for the first people to develop it, and they made it into a handheld gun. By the next,
Can I interject something?
Well, we know that it was developed and employed by most likely the Russians in 1953. So if you're talking about a current research suggesting that that's the beginning, then you're about 65 years late.
May I interject?
Absolutely not.
If you go to
MK Ultra was all about LSD.
Please don't conflate that. Don't conflate that with what we're talking about. Don't pull in other topics.
No, because MK Ultra is very important. because it's in the Senate archive.
It has nothing. We're talking about directed energy attacks on our consulates and embassies and the directed energy
Absolutely.
market.
Can you tell me where they're coming from, please?
Can I interject something? I'd just like to.
Yes, I can. You want me to?
No, you're doing great. If you go to, I'm offering some supporting content.
I have it all.
If you go to Targeted Massachusetts on Facebook, you will find a video. Okay, the video lasts approximately 5 to 10 minutes. It shows the act denial system in operation with people. It also shows how Raytheon has shrunk the device. It shows the device. It shows a number of other devices, and it's in blue. It's the first video. It's pinned to the top of Targeted Massachusetts in Facebook. So it's worth a watch. I'm going to move it.
Well, here's something too. Here's something
let me answer the question. So Raytheon is beyond a doubt one of the biggest, but we also have Optical Systems, Applied Research Associates, Applied Technology Associates, BAE, we have Boeing, we have Booz Allen Hamilton, we have Coherent, we have General Atomics, we have LS Brashear, we have Lazartol, we have Leidos, we have Lockheed Martin, we have National Electromagnetic LLC, we have Northrop Grumman, we have Nutanix, we have Optomatics, we have Radiance Technology.
And don't forget SpaceX.
And in terms of government entities, one second here, and in terms of government entities, we have Joint Directed Energy Transition Office, the DoD Non-Lethal Weapons Program, we have Air Force Research Laboratory, we have Defense Systems Information Analysis Center, we have the U.S. Army Space and Missile Command, we have Naval Service Welfare Center, we have Naval Air Force Warfare Center Weapons Division, we have labs in academia, we have Sandia National Laboratories, we have University of New Mexico, we have the University of Missouri Center for Physical Electronics and Power Electronics. So therefore, because of the multitude of the entities and agencies and companies that we're dealing with, I don't think it behooves us to narrow it down to just one company.
Even though we have the contract for it?
Unless we have smoking gun evidence that
the contract is the smoking gun.
No, unless we have smoking gun evidence that they are behind the attacks on the embassy workers and the consulates. You do realize, if people realize that these if we have smoking gun evidence that's what's happening to the people at the embassies, then it bolsters our case and will help us win. It will help us to expose it and help us win. Now, here's my issue. If I sound upset, it's due to the fact that I grew up outside of DC and I grew up with a lot of intelligence folks around me, and I know that most of those companies, the big ones, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, they have their own intelligence, extremely formidable intelligence units. So we're not even talking about the private intelligence sector that gets 70% of the intelligence budget, which is about $58 to $60 billion a year. We're talking the private companies like Lockheed Martin and Boeing have their own formidable intelligence units. So I don't want this to be narrowed down to the point that the larger picture is ignored. Now, let me make that clear. I think what Targeted Justice is doing by zeroing in on the Air Force Command in Colorado, is it Schreiber? I think that is incredible, and it is it's mind-boggling how fast they were able to do that. But I'm simply just trying to speak to the larger directed energy market, how long it's been around, because when I make the point, what has happened for more than a year is someone will say, after I say these weapons were employed by most likely the Russians on our embassy workers back in 1953. Being able to establish that these weapons have a nearly 70-year deployment or employment or use helps us bolster what's going on currently. So I'm trying to help provide people with the facts that they can do so. And we may be conflicting or having necessary debate in just trying to understand what each other are saying. But I will say that when I talk about the history, and then people get on the same call and begin to imply that these weapons are theoretical or in research mode, that smacks of deliberate disinformation.
Yeah, they are in use.
And have been since 1953.
Agreed.
And that's not the reason I had asked you, Frank, and I recognize that a few people just in this call are saying, Frank, put this on, you know, so on your site. But the reason I think the 1953 date is so vital is it helps to establish just a huge, a very, very long time.
To add to that, 1957, the Soviet Union was the first one to put up satellites to direct those there in space. So they did beat us to, and we have been partnering, going up with them after the first Apollo. They were taking Russians and Chinese and Japanese and all kinds of people up there. We weren't to know about it, but it's not a secret anymore.
Sputnik was useless. It was a test trial and just emitted a beacon.
It was, you're right. It was the first artificial satellite, they said. And since then, there's been 6,600 satellites from more than 40 countries that have been launched. And I think if we go back to Tesla, I would think would be the first real guided, well, I don't know if you want to call it guided weapon, death ray, whatever you want to call it, his technology, that I don't think that he was making it to do damage. But then when the government wanted to pair up with him, that's when he was doing the death ray, because I know it was upstate New York. They're trying to replicate that. Where the exact spot was in upstate New York. On the channel.
Oh, shut up.
Part of what
I have to find that.
Part of what I'm trying to help the community zero in on is the long history of the use of directed energy. And of course, satellites play a part. But I want to begin to hear from the community. These weapons were being used in 1953 on our U.S. Embassy workers, diplomats and ambassadors, and there were many incidences of cancers and early deaths that were consistent with.
Was that our diplomats in Russia?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. And other places probably.
There's an article that I've sent to Frank, and I've linked to in TalkShoe, and this would not be exaggerating to say that I've linked to it more than 200 times. and it is an article from the Association for Diplomatic Studies and Training,
Interesting.
in which a former ambassador, James Schumacher, clarifies other information in that same blog. He says, actually, the Chancery on Tchaikovsky Street in Moscow, we detected was being bombarded in 1953.
And where
again,
did Mengler come in?
along?
I mean, Mengler was back in the 50s.
And the reason 1953 is so important is because it is not vague. We can say with confidence these sources should have long been spread far and wide within the community so that no TI that's been around here for a while would not know that directed energy was used in 1953. So my frustration, as you probably can hear it, is because I think in terms of how, part of my background is how do we shape messages? How do we sell messages? How do we shape the facts? I'm not in any way disputing what the woman was talking about, the bioeffects and the huge importance of that sort of information.
And that is a very valid point that she has, because that also is going to give, you've mentioned, Frank mentioned, others have mentioned, more money, grant money to the universities to study us, to the pharmaceutical industry, yada, yada, yada.
Okay, I can't stress enough how pleased I am to have Patrick back, and I'm very impressed with, like I say, the content that he brings with him, and it's always backed up with a source. And Lorraine is the same way. And Pat, I think Lorraine still get along very well because I think you're of like minds.
Yeah, I will acknowledge one of my limitations, one of the things I'm working on is not getting upset when I hear misinformation and concluding that it's deliberate. So disinformation, the definition, disinformation is deliberate misinformation with the intent to deceive. And
I get a stomach ache when I hear it.
Yeah, and I know you are also very fact-based. And Frank, we have never, you have not like shared, and this isn't your fault. I don't even know what you did with your life, but I know you're extremely technical, and you have an understanding of so many different technologies that I don't have. I just have this sort of red alarm thing going off that's like saying the message needs to be shaped, and everyone needs to share comfortably that directed energy was used in 1953. And a lot of people, I've been attacked, I've been called a child, I've been told to shut the F up, I've been told that no one cares.
Join the club.
Well, we do.
I don't take it too personally. I try not to. We all just have to have complicit, constructive criticism instead of destructive criticism. I don't ever want to bash anyone in front of other people. Even if I'm feeling I'm being personally attacked, I try to bite my lip and in silence. I would rather walk away from a fight than be in a counterproductive fight that is going to go nowhere, than just upset the other person and upset me and hurt feelings. And I don't want that. That's just not who I am, because
Amy,
I go for weeks at a time that I talk to because I am in such rage, just such rage, and I don't know if it's them doing it, if it's my hormones doing it, if it's combination. But I know I can talk to these other ladies, and I don't know about you guys, but it's not midlife crisis. It's not menopause that's heating up my feet at night and making you sweat, like you have to peel off the layers. When it's you got the air conditioning cranked up as high as it can go, and you should be freezing cold. So all these things, we've got our emotions tied up and invested in this, and we do let things get the best of us sometimes, and I'll admit I do. So excuse me if I get over emotional about something, but it's not directed at any one person. It's just my own struggles. So, and that's for everybody. I just have nothing but love for everybody in the community, no matter what their background. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm the least to judge anyone because I judge myself more harshly and deal with my own self-hatred that I have to overcome from childhood trauma. We all have a history in the past, and we're just trying to help each other get through it, and get to the good part. And we're getting to the good part. To celebrate each other.
Thank you, Amy. And one thing I will say is in the business consulting world, when they begin to look at a large company to try to see where information might get distorted while it moves throughout a business to help improve the communications within a business, they do something called echo analysis, sort of like the game you played when you were a kid, and you'd start off with a sentence and you'd whisper into the other child's ear, and the way it goes around to try to find the distortion. And the reason I push certain information is because it's being obfuscated in the collective community. And when I begin to hear it echo back to me with clarity and with repetition, then I will know that objective has been achieved. And it's an important objective because it will help us make our present case, the case that we are now, as we speak, as you were just talking about, Amy, the heating up of your feet, with an air conditioning, by speaking about the history, or by knowing the history, we'll have a better ability to sell this to the people in our lives, our politicians, and all the way up there.
Yeah, especially when we show them that we don't have a criminal record, we don't do drugs, we don't have a risky behavior lifestyle. So when we can give credence to those things, that shows that we have credibility in that. We don't have a mental problem caused by, these things that we experimented with or whatever. So collectively, we will show credibility that way. We're a good, God-fearing bunch of people, and we want to do the right thing for the right reason. We're not just here to be anarchists, and I can't stress that point enough, that we're not here to be, what was the Wall Street people, activists, Anonymous, or what was the other one? Help me out here, somebody. There was two major groups that were all about anarchy. One was Anonymous.
Oh, you're talking about
Occupy Wall
Street. You're talking about
Occupy?
Yeah.
So we're not just about looking for any cause, and not that their cause isn't good, but we're not anarchists, and we want to separate ourselves from those types, that we are results-driven. We want for humanity. We have this single purpose, that we want to get across that nobody should have to be a victim to this.
Occupy was actually a genuine populist movement that was addressing the huge disparity in wealth and wealth distribution.
Oh, okay.
It was misportrayed by the media because the media are lackeys of the people that run things, and in order to get the truth through media, you have to listen to, well, you have to start with the mainstream just to see like what's being covered. And then you got to go through hundreds of articles, and it's ridiculous. You can't expect everyone to do that, but to actually get to the truth, sometimes that's what's necessary nowadays. So I was doing. I've tended to be active, but behind the scenes. So I was writing for Occupy, and other people were making the pamphlets. Just speaking about wealth. Speaking about wealth.
This wealth disparity. This has gotten out of hand in our country. I'm seeing other countries that are prospering off of our lack thereof, and it makes me really angry. Yes, those countries were struggling, but the disparity is just too much here. And I don't know, what do you, all of you, what do you think about Bitcoin? I kept thinking about that, kept going through my head today. It doesn't seem like it's a tangible thing, but yet they were able to single-handedly kind of be overt in their efforts to redirect wealth. And it's only going to get more that way with the, we call it, plastic. In Japan, I was shocked to see that the seniors in Japan can't even get to see a doctor because they don't know how to use the app that pays for that national health care. So they're waiting in these long lines because they don't know the apps, how to work the apps on the cell phones. Because, like, I don't know about other people on this call, but I didn't grow up with the internet. So that's still a learning curve for me. I'm still learning, and here I was in that industry for a little bit and still don't understand it. And it scares me that everything's going to cashless places. And when I'd see these old guys on the Japanese news, they'd go into the store and pay cash because they still didn't have a grip on how to use this technology. And the lady wouldn't give him back all his change. She's like, well, you don't carry coins, so they don't carry silver anymore. So that he'd have to come back and get his change at some other time because he didn't have coins with him. So I found that disturbing. It seems like U.S. was always the forefront of everything, but no, Japan and China is on the cutting edge ahead of us with everything.
Maybe.
Because they've got already full service hotels where the robots are running everything, literally. The concierge, the desk, the check-in, the self-check-ins, I thought was a phase, but unfortunately it's not. It's just really scary the way that's going. It just disturbs me.
Okay, for Massachusetts residents, I just want to change the subject for a second. Kate Ryan posted a document. It's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts statements in support of resolve relative to disclosure of radio frequency notifications, S.107, and act relative to disclosure of radio frequency notifications, S.108, an act relative to the safe use of handheld devices by children. Okay, there are a number of, a page and a half of email addresses, and it's actually a template for you to fill out. It says the areas that you are to fill out on your own. So I'm going to post that document in its entirety on targetedmassachusetts.org, so you can find it there. I don't know if Paula is still here, or because she's from Dorchester, which is actually part of Boston. Go ahead. I'm all through.
Oh yeah, that's where my cousins live, Dorchester.
I'm here, Frank.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Dorchester.
Yep. I'm here.
Is Dorchester a big town, Paula?
Is it a big town?
Yeah,
it's not that big.
There.
It's not that big. No, it's not that big. It's just from town to town. We have Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. It's not that big, but it's a pretty good size.
Oh, cool. Are you far away from Frank?
Yeah, Frank lives, I think, on the Cape.
What town are you in, Frank?
I'm in Carver. I'm just north of the Cape Cod Canal.
Oh, cool. Where they filmed the Jaws?
What's that?
Where they filmed Jaws?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's man-made canal goes straight across.
It's man-made, really?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, I remember, I know this is off topic, but they had that Michael Phelps thing, racing a shark. Everybody was like, no, it's not a real shark. It's a mechanical shark, the one they used in Jaws.
Oh.
It was so ridiculous. So everything is not as it seems. Even if they put on the news, yeah, there's a shark in the water, everybody get out. Well, it may not be a real shark. It may be a mechanical one, because they've got the mechanical birds up there in Antarctica watching the penguins. They've got, hummingbirds, bees, butterflies, everything is mechanical. You can't tell the difference up close. Well, maybe up close, but.
Okay, well, it's 8:13. In 2 minutes, I'm going to have to end this call. And the reasoning behind that is Neil's call is coming up at 8:30, and he is due south on the East Coast. I don't know.
Sorry.
35. So.
Is it ready?
Yeah, we'll see you
tomorrow
night. Tomorrow night at 9.
Thank you, Frank.
Certainly. And
thank you.
God bless TIs all over the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Great crowd. And thank you, Patrick.
Bye, Frank. Bye, Frank.
Bye, Paula.
Bye, Amy.
Good night, Lorraine. Lorraine, I'm going to come down and see you one of these days very shortly.
I know.
Yeah. I wish we could have our own private jet. Maybe we should hit up, what's his name with Virgin Airlines? Richard Branson.
All right, good night.
Bye to all friends.
Bye, Paula.
Bye.
Bye.